Yeah, hello. In this video, I'll be showcasing how the glare in particular is ruining the otherwise exceptional package of the Beyond 2. I'll be comparing it with the glare pattern on the Pico 4, as you can see on the screen right now, and I think the small lenses used on the Beyond 2 is ultimately its downfall. On screen, you'll see a reproduction of the glare pattern as well as the glare intensity of the Beyond 2 next to the Pico 4. You're able to reproduce all of that yourself, of course, by going to the Volt Eventide on multiple social VR platforms and going to this very location you see on screen right now and looking at the bright light. In this very first tower scenario, we have a bright light source, a dot light almost, at the top left here, because we're looking at the bottom right of that very bright light source. As you can see on the Beyond, you have a white dot near the center, but not quite at the center. And you have a very large speck of light at the bottom right, which is very distracting. Also, the bright part of the glare is at the opposite of the light source, which makes this even worse. Because in a contrast scene like this, and I mean in a lot of other scenes as well, this can be very distracting. Now compare this to the Pico 4. Instead of having like the bright spot at the opposite end, you only have a few after images. So you have like 3 after images that taper off towards the center. And the glare intensity is much reduced compared to the Beyond 2. And now we're gonna look a bit more towards the center of the light source. The light source is still somewhat at the top left, but not at the edge of the screen top left anymore. And as you can see, this makes the glare pattern even worse on the Beyond 2. Now you'll have a bit more glare at the center spot of the lens, but even more glare, like the glare spot is larger at the bottom right, at the opposite end of the light source. And that spot of glare takes up almost 1/4 of the view of the entire lens. That is a really bad experience, and now imagine you have like even more light spots swirling around. Compare that to how the Pico 4 looks. We still have the 3 after images tapering off towards the center, but you'll also have a bit of a glare spot at the bottom right now, which is very faint, and you will only really see it in extreme examples like that compared to the Beyond 2, where the glare is very noticeable in a lot of contrasty scenes. Now, one argument that is always being shared around within the Beyond 2 community is it is using an OLED panel, and that is why the glare is more noticeable, because between the 0% blacks and the brighter spots, well, obviously there's going to be more contrast compared to an LCD panel, which doesn't really have true blacks. Now, I've done what I've done 2 years ago on the Beyond 1, and I shared on Twitter 2 years ago, and I boosted the black levels of the Beyond 2. You can actually do it using the NVIDIA control panel. It's in the description, by the way. And when we do that, we'll get something like this. And as you can see, even with the boosted black levels, it's still quite noticeable that there is a bit of glare happening, but it will also make the glare less noticeable. So it might be an option if you want to sacrifice the 0% blacks of the OLED panel. Now compare that to the Pico 4. Let's show you the actual image of the Pico 4, because of course it is an LCD panel, and that diminishes the glare even more on the Pico 4. So all the examples is up to now were assuming the Pico 4 had the OLED panel, which it doesn't have. It uses an LCD panel, and now it becomes even more noticeable if we look at the Beyond with the OLED panel and 0% blacks, and then compare it with the Pico 4 with its LCD panel, and the glare difference is quite substantial actually, like this. Now let's look directly into the light source and we'll see different results yet again. On the Beyond 2, we'll see a very distinct circle forming around the light source when looking right at it. And on the Pico 4, that circle is much more diffused and it's more like a very intense bloom. This only happens if you look directly into a bright light source, and it's a very contrasty scene like that. That is for both headsets, of course. So yeah, you usually wouldn't see it like that, but yeah, in this scene you would, right? Makes sense. Now let's take a look at one last image. This is something very easily reproducible by anyone really. When you're in your current game, just open Steam VR and it shows you what game you're playing and like a vertical logo of the game you're playing. I took CVR here because it's a bright red logo, which makes the glare very apparent and obvious. And in the Beyond 2 case, you'll see there's a small blotch of glare towards the center and a very distracting blotch of glare at the opposite end yet again. Very distracting, I would say. And if we take a look on the Pico 4, you'll see the 3 after images tapering off again. And the second after image is something you can actually see very clearly. So you can literally see what is causing the glare on it. It's all very faint. And on the opposite end on the Pico 4, you also have a very faint blotch of glare, but you only really see it on dark scenes like that. So yeah, try it out yourself if you have a Pico 4 or Beyond 2, and that is the most easy to reproduce thing. Or of course go to the spot I mentioned at the beginning of the video in the Volt Eventide, and you can reproduce these results. Now I alluded to it at the beginning of the video, but I think using small lenses like you have on the Beyond 2 is a critical design flaw. Now I think from the way they need to be designed, it intensifies the glare, but the Beyond 2 team is saying, well, actually, the size of the lens doesn't affect how much glare is being produced. So let's put that to the side for now. There's another problem that these small lenses have. When you're looking around within your VR headset, the pupil will actually move around a bit to the left, to the right, top, bottom. And if you have a small lens like you have on the Beyond 2, that also means that the glare pattern will jump around as you look around the headset, which is a very bad experience in general, especially if the glare is as bad as it is on the Beyond 2. Now you can actually test that without moving around your eyes. If you take your Beyond 2 and just move it around while you wear it, move it a bit up, down, left, right, you see that the glare pattern is jumping around quite a bit actually. And that is the same thing that happens when you move your eye around. So if you do the same thing with the Pico 4, it's a bigger lens, and then you move the Pico 4 headset around, you'll see that you need to move the headset by a much larger margin in order to see the glare pattern jump around as you see on the Beyond 2. So for that reason alone, now let's, the glare intensity aside, that is why small lenses are a bad idea on a VR headset. Now the examples I showed you were like just looking through one eye, just to simplify it on a flat screen like this. However, the problem with the Beyond 2 is also that you won't just see that glare pattern once, you see it twice happening. So you won't just see like two very extreme glare spots, you see 4, because you see it from the left eye and from the right eye. And the small lenses and the way how easy the glare pattern can change also translates into how it is perceived from the left and the right eye. It's a whole thing. It's also very distracting. So you see 4 bright spots essentially, compared to the Pico 4, where that is also the case to a small degree. But firstly, the glare intensity is much smaller, of course. And secondly, it uses larger lenses. So you have to move around much more to actually change the glare pattern, which also makes it that the glare kind of like aligns between 2 eyes, so it won't feel as if it's double the glare. I hope that makes sense, yeah. But the bigger lens just makes the difference here again. And yeah, that was my comparison. I hope that illustrated very well what the problems with the Beyond glare are. Well, why don't you try it out yourself? Take the Beyond 2, go to a scene and look at how the glare feels, then try your other headset. You are likely a serial VR user, so you must have a second headset somewhere. See what happens. Even Fresnel lenses had a better glare pattern, because on the Fresnel lenses you also had the thing where the glare was staying in its lane, I like to say, where it tapered off towards the center and it didn't go to the opposite end of where the bright spot is, because that is the biggest problem when it comes to glare. You're in a contrasty scene, bright light spot at one end and the opposite end has the bright part. Very annoying. So yeah, just try it yourself. Yeah, you compare the results and then you can say, oh, did he actually lie or not? You never know. So I guess I ended with a small review of the Beyond 2. You probably read quite a few already ending up in this video. Now comfort is probably better. The audio strap is pretty good, but I would still use there's like a top strap thing. Just put it on the audio strap as well. Makes it even better. Like the face gas, it's pretty comfy, I guess. I like it. Good, I suppose. But ultimately, to me, it doesn't matter because, I do strength training. So, it doesn't matter if some slightly heavier headset is on my head. So, I'm just bypassing the issue, I suppose. But yeah, it is more comfortable. There's a bit of another issue with the panel itself, but I don't think it's that big of a deal, actually. The top and bottom parts of the field of view are like a bit more purplish. I think there's some chromatic fracturing or so happening. from the OLED panels itself. We only really notice it if you focus on something and then like you move your head up and down or rotate your head up and down, and then you see how the color slightly changes. It's whatever ultimately. Otherwise, I mean, SteamVR is pretty good. You plug it in and then you're in SteamVR, but you can do the same on the Pico 4 actually. You just auto start a virtual desktop, and then like you're in SteamVR by just turning on the headset. So I mean, maybe standalone is not that bad after all. But yeah, I guess you don't get as many artifacts too. That's also pretty good, I guess. Yeah. That was an expensive paperweight. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I hope this helped you evaluate the glare problems with the Beyond 2.